We are back. It's a fresh edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. We took Thursday and Friday off last week from Weather Geeks because, frankly, Thursday we had some severe weather. And then Friday, the weather got so easy, there was very little to talk about. So we took a little break from doing this video. But we're back full time this week. We should have enough to talk about this week to do a Weather Geeks video every day. And I want to start out with a quick review of where we've been so far in July. We're 9 days deep into the month. And no surprise, it's been warmer than average through the first 9 days. Now, we did have that cool down at the end of last week and the start of the weekend. What a great weekend it was. I mean, that weather over the weekend was just about as perfect as it gets. It has started to warm up. It's not humid just yet, but we did 84 yesterday and a toasty 87 out there at the Youngstown Warren Airports late this afternoon. So yeah, it's gotten pretty warm. But with dew points not shooting up through the 60s, it's, I think for most people it's been pretty tolerable. 88 in Akron today, 84 Pittsburgh. The high up at the Hopkins Airport in Cleveland was 89 degrees. Again, the dew points, though, these are a bargain for this time of the year. When we talk about dew points in the 50s in July, hey, that's not bad at all. Now, they've crept up a little bit early this evening, but still, this is in the manageable category for most people. We really don't start to talk about the dew points as being much of a factor in our forecast at this time of the year or how the year feels until they get up into the low to mid 60s. And then, of course, last week at times we had dew points in the 70s, and it was horrible outside. Thankfully, we have nothing like that coming over the next few days. Weather across the country, fairly quiet this evening. We have some moisture hugging the southern states down here from the lower Mississippi Valley out through parts of the desert southwest. High and dry across the Midwest. Your eye may be drawn to what's just above my head, and that's a tropical storm. This is Chris, and Chris is a tropical storm that's on the verge of becoming a hurricane. It just needs a few more miles per hour before it hits that 74 mile per hour threshold. Notice the movement. Well, there is none. It's stationary. This is just kind of hanging out. Right now, gusts up to 85 and the pressure at 996. Now, this is not going to make a landfall in the U.S. What it is producing is some rip current threats and some high surf for the beaches of North Carolina and down through South Carolina. So anybody vacationing at Myrtle and heading up towards the Outer Banks, the sea may be a little bit rough, but that's about it. This is really not much of a threat to the U.S. at all. This will finally get a kick north and east as we go through midweek. Moving very little tonight, but then it'll start to move. It may even become a Category 1 hurricane, and then it'll start to move northeast fairly rapidly as it gets out over some upper-level steering winds that are a lot stronger than what it's under right now. All right, I mentioned this on social media late last week, but in case you missed it, if you're up late at night, past midnight especially, you may notice the orange dot in the sky, and yeah, that's Mars. Mars is getting brighter and brighter, and that's because Mars is approaching what we call opposition. In astronomical terminology, opposition is when a planet or something else is on the opposite side of Earth from the Sun. So in other words, the Earth is directly in between the Sun and the planet. In this case, it'll be Mars. And that makes the planet brighter and brighter. And officially on July 27th, Mars will be at opposition. Also, reaching a very close point in its orbit to Earth. In fact, we haven't been this close to Mars in 15 years. It's been since 2003, since we've been as close as 35 million miles. The planets all orbit the sun on similar looking ellipses here, but of course the planets move at very different speeds. The Earth orbits the sun much quicker than Mars does. It takes about 2 Earth years for Mars to make a trip around the sun, but every couple years they line up and become in opposition, and that makes Mars or any of the other planets who may be in opposition that much brighter. All right, big picture back here on Earth for tomorrow. We're going for 83 tomorrow afternoon. Record high tomorrow is a real high one, 103, the record on the 10th day of July. Losing a little more than a minute, or around a minute worth of daylight at this point. We're down under 15 hours after peaking last month. Notice I do have some small chances for precipitation in the forecast tomorrow afternoon. I emphasize small. I don't think it's going to be much, but we do have a front tracking our way, and ahead of it, it will be more humid tomorrow, so there'll be some atmospheric juice to squeeze out. And, it's going to be one of those deals where in any one location, it might rain for 5 or 10 minutes. A lot of us will miss this stuff. I think the best chance of seeing a shower and thunderstorm is probably around and south of Route 30. The farther north you are, up into Trumbull and Mercer, I doubt there's a whole lot that happens tomorrow. And then in the wake of the front, cooler, And more importantly, drier air will return for tomorrow night and into Wednesday. Storm Prediction Center in the dark green here has the risk up to kind of the low category around and south of Route 30, probably closer to I-70. That's the zone where there's a decent chance of a couple of those storms getting rowdy. Really don't think there's much of a chance of severe weather here locally. Well, we're back to great weather Wednesday and Thursday as high pressure drifts off to the north. Low humidity, some sunshine. Notice our dew points back in the comfy category Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I mean, hey, that's great stuff for July. When the sun is out, yeah, it's going to be a little bit warm by Friday, up to the mid-80s, kind of like today. But, again, we'll take those dew points in the 50s. I think we'll start to turn fairly humid over the weekend and into early next week. Not much rain in this pattern. For some, this is good news. For some, I've heard some comments about people wishing for rain, but a lot of people a little fed up with some of the wet weather we've had in the spring and early summer. It has been wetter than average, nothing crazy or unusual or anything, but a little wetter than average. But over the next week, I'll tell you, most of our modeling here is a half an inch or less on the precipitation totals for the next 7 days. So spotty stuff tomorrow, probably some spotty stuff over the weekend as well, a chance of a shower and storm Saturday and Sunday as the air becomes more humid. But otherwise, for the Trumbull County Fair, hey, look at this. I hear a lot of gripes about the Trumbull County Fair year after year. It always rains and that sort of thing. Yeah, there's a little bit more of a myth to that than real science. In July, we're going to get thunderstorms. That just happens around here. That's fairly common weather here in July. So, but if you're at the fair, you don't want to get rained on, and so if you get rained on, you remember it and you think it happens more often than it does. But that being said, we have had some fairly soggy Trumbull County fairs over the last handful of years. This year, though, we're going to string together 3 beautiful days in a row: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday just an outside chance of a shower and storm. Hey, tomorrow's the opening ceremonies at noon, and I am the MC. I'm going to be up there at the fair at noon tomorrow, kicking things off officially. Free admission tomorrow to the fair. So if you happen to be heading to the opening ceremonies tomorrow, hope you'll stop over and say hi. I'll be there for a little while doing the opening ceremonies. Real quick look at the longer range. There's some decent model agreement here that there's going to be a little bit of a pattern shift in the longer range. Overall, still a pretty toasty pattern through early next week. This is the European model then for the second half of next week. Notice some of the blue making some inroads here late next week into the following weekend. So here's Sunday the 22nd. So, we're 10 days out or so here. And the modeling has done a head fake like this a few times recently, where in the longer range it shows a cool down and it never really materializes. But this is one of those cases where we have some decent model agreement. Then in 10 days or so, a somewhat cooler pattern, more than just a day or two, may take shape. So we'll see what the trends are on that. I'm a little skeptical because we've gotten head faked a little bit by some of the modeling in that 10 to 17 day range, advertising some cool downs this summer that really haven't materialized for more than 1 or 2 days. So I'll have more updates on that in future editions of Weather for Weather Geeks, and thank you for watching tonight's video. Have a great Monday night.